The 417 Gamers is a group of board, tabletop, and card gamers in the 417 area code. This is the podcast.
This is the 417 Gamer Podcast, Episode 9, Expansion. We've been talking at MoonCityCon, and it finally happened. So Andrew and I sit down, we talk about MoonCityCon, how it went, and all that. And we talk about the 7 games we got to play at MoonCityCon. Here it is, the 417 Gamer Podcast.
So this is 417 Gamer Podcast, the expansion episodes. We got back from MoonCityCon, and I thought it went pretty darn well.
Yeah, a new venue. You never know how the setup is going to work. With the vendors and the play tables and the library being in a different area. I think it worked out really well.
Yeah, we were at the Hilton Garden Inn on the south side of Springfield, and we've plugged it several times on the podcast, and you could kind of maybe stop hearing about MoonCityCon promos in the middle of our podcast for a little bit, but they'll be back next year. Because, spoilers, we did well, everybody had a good time. But, got there Thursday night for the setup, and I don't think they've done a convention like we were doing or anything like that. They had flows on each side, which are long tables going in a line,
Yep.
and then they had rounds in the middle, which is fine. But for our vendor area, it wasn't going to work.
So we had to rearrange the tables.
Yep, we rearranged it the way we liked it, and I think it went well.
Yeah, the flow was really good. There were a couple of boardrooms available for demonstrations and teaching. We had a paint teach class for miniatures.
Gary and Elizabeth. Gary's has really gotten his stride on painting, and not only that, being able to teach people. Teaching is, and that's something we'll talk about in a future episode, is teaching games, but teaching in of itself is something that not everybody can do.
Right.
And different people can teach different subjects. Just because you're good at teaching one thing does not necessarily mean it translates to you teaching other things.
Sure.
But Gary, this is the second year Gary did some teaching seminars for us, and it went pretty darn well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to message some people to see if I can get some pictures, because I missed those. But Thursday, we set up, got everything kind of squared away, and as much as setup is dreaded, man, that was nothing compared to the last day, but we'll get to that. Friday, so the year previous, MoonCityCon 22, our Friday was kind of slow.
Which is normal for a convention. People are at work on Friday.
Mm-hmm. Especially in the Ozarks, in my experience. Fridays are slow, then Saturdays are busy, and then Sundays can go either way.
Yeah.
That was not the case this year.
Not at all.
We opened the door, and we saw, we had our in-rush for the first hour and a half, 2 hours, was almost as big as MoonCityCon 2022's Friday total, almost.
Yes.
Our head count, our absolute cap was going to be 200 gamers. And we were just shy of that going into the Friday. But if I'm not mistaken, I think Catherine said we were 206-ish.
Yes.
I'd have to confirm those numbers, but sitting right now, I mean, we talked a lot of numbers, so this, I could be a little bit overstating, and that might be with vendors too. But yeah, we saw a lot of faces. Dan with Renegade Games, he lives in the area now. He brought us some prize support, and absolutely need to thank him, because at registration, it bumped up how many prizes we were able to give away.
Yes.
Catherine had a great idea. We did a card pull. Whenever you came in, you got your badge, your lanyard, which was sponsored by Metagames, our friendly local game store. One of Catherine's wonderful cookies. Catherine is a fantastic cook, baker, just foodie all around. Like her Rice Krispie treats, which is what I picked. She baked enough for everybody to have one. including staff, including, vendors, whatever. I tried her Rice Krispie treats. She used brown butter and just a little pepper with the sugar and the salts that she puts in there. So good.
Yes.
I tore some off because I don't remember what you ate, and I said, no, you got to try this too. You're like, well, I put a mint in my mouth. Well, spit out the mint. This is way better. Was it way better?
It was way better.
Yeah. So, great prize sport. Our play and win area, we got really bumped up there at the end. Envoy came through and gave us quite a few prizes.
We ended up having almost 60 play to win games.
Yeah.
And our library was over 350 games.
Yep.
And then we ended up having over 50 door prize, brand new sealed games to give away.
Yeah.
It was wonderful to be able to give away so many really cool prizes.
Yeah. So there were games, and Renegade also sent us some really cool puzzles.
Yes.
We were able to give one of those away as a prize for Battling Top Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
That was awesome.
Yeah. And they were game-themed puzzles like Gloomhaven.
There was a Scott Pilgrim
video
which
game.
is a video game, and there's also a deck building game, which I think Renegade publishes. And of course, there's the movie and the comic books and all that stuff. I don't remember the other two puzzles.
Yeah, they were game-related.
I think so.
From Envoy, yeah. So
But
it was...
Well, I was Renegade.
Renegade, I'm sorry.
You're all right.
But yeah, it was wonderful. Seeing the people come in for the play to win games, some of them were so popular that there was a wait list for when they were coming back in. Genotype was very popular.
From Genius Games.
Creature Comforts was super popular.
From Kids at the Table.
We had a waiting list on that one. So
The Wolves from Pandasaurus. Mm-hmm. That was a big one. One of an Uwe Rosenberg game, Spielworks. We got a copy of Orienberger Canal. And most of our Euro fans love that game. That was constantly checked out. As soon as that came back in, it's a 2-player game. Somebody else would grab it and then find somebody else like-minded, like, hey, you want to play the new Uwe? Yes, I do. And they go right back out and play it. Mille Fiori. That was out quite a bit. Mm-hmm. Skate Summer got some love.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Friday went really well. Really busy.
We had almost 75% of people who had pre-bought their badges checked in on Friday.
Yeah.
Which for a convention is huge. I mean, for any convention, gaming convention or otherwise.
Yeah. And then, so we continued on into Saturday. Mm-hmm. Friday, we did a poker night.
Yes.
Had a great time. I'm terrible at running poker. I don't know how to set up the pot very well. I don't know how to run blinds. And I usually lean on some friends to help. And our buddy Mike, he is an umpire for softball, for league softball. Mm-hmm. And his daughter was doing travel softball, so they weren't able to come down. And I wasn't able to ride his coattails. And that everybody appreciated it, everybody was nice, but yeah, I need to do a better job or find somebody else to do that for us. Then we got to Saturday, lots of stuff going on. Pitch car went really well. Catherine did her calico tournament. She knitted a throw that looked like the calico blanket on the cover of the box.
Yeah, it matched perfectly.
Yeah, if go over to the 417Gamer Instagram or go over to Facebook at facebook.com/MoonCityCon. Look at the pictures. You'll see the throw that I'm talking about. One of the guys won it and gave it to his kid, and his kid wore it kind of like a cape.
He wore it all day.
Whole weekend.
Yeah, it was a cape. He loved it. It was great.
Yeah. So Gary taught his paint seminar later that day. And then I didn't have it as a scheduled game just because I didn't know if we were going to get to it. But I got to bring back out Pitch Force. So I love Pitch Car. It's a dexterity game where you're flicking discs around a wooden track. The track is in pieces that you have to put together, and I always make up tracks on the fly. And then I combine it with Downforce. Downforce is a game from Restoration Games where you're betting on cars. You're bidding on cars to own, and then you're betting on those cars as they go around the track.
Yes.
Whoever comes out with the most money wins. Well, Pitchforce has... you have to have 6 players to play the pitch car side of it. Then you also need at least, I say 3, if not more...
Yeah.
to play the Downforce side of it. So you'll draft for pole position. Somebody will pull a puck, and that will be their car in their pole position. Then the Downforce people will bid on that car, and then everybody else will draw their pucks. So the pitch car people don't get to pick their color. They're gonna go into a color car, and they're gonna be their car is gonna be purchased, and they're gonna drive, quote unquote, flick it around the track. So, the Downforce people bid on the cars and pay for them like they do in regular Downforce.
Yes.
In Pitch Car, depending on the order of the track, that usually determines player order. However, in Pitchforce, the Downforcers, when they play their cards, the order of the colors dictate player order for the Pitch Car players. So, there's some manipulation going on, there's some strategy going on. And there's very something similar with Downforce because you get those bottlenecks in Downforce. So you have to kind of pay attention when you're playing your cards. You have to do that very same thing in Pitchforce.
Yes.
But there are betting lines, and I kind of guesstimate where they should go. And I think it worked well this time. The first time we played it back in February, I made a slightly too large of a track, and we had some very inexperienced gamers. But it was a great test run because I got to figure out what really worked and what I needed to rein in.
Yeah.
So this was a slightly smaller track, and it allowed us just to go through the deck once. And not even quite, because my cars didn't finish. Ended up the 3 people playing Downforce was myself, Mike, and I forget the other gentleman's name. Was it Greg? Anyway, we were playing, and we each were able to purchase 2 cars. I had Hawk, a Fanatics in the Fan, and a young man, I think he was preteen. And Team Rick Racing, neither car was able to finish.
Simply because you ran out of cards.
Right, just like Downforce, though. And fantastic time. I will absolutely play that again. I love doing that.
Yeah.
And it was requested that we make that an
annual event.
Yeah, an annual event. Which I think I will say yes, that might become an annual event. So I might, respectfully see if somebody else will take on the running of poker, so I could do Pitchforce and focus on just my 3 events.
Yes.
Then so Nick in our group ran Blood on the Clock Tower. He said that went really good. Everybody had a good time with that. Then Sunday morning came, and we ran Battling Tops. Moved some tables around. Got that running. That was a great time. Our buddy in the group, Evan, he won Pitch Car, and then he came back and won Battling Tops as well. And Jennifer was winning for a little bit.
She was.
She was one of our volunteers. She did a great job helping us at registration and helping us where we needed it. But she loves playing Battling Tops, and she was doing so well. And she told us, she was like, no, he's going to come back and beat me. And Evan did. Her self-defeating prophecy happened. Poor Jennifer. But that was awesome. We did closing ceremonies. We gave away so many things.
It took us almost an hour just to do all the drawings between the vendor prize pool, the play-to-wins, the door prizes, the VIP giveaway.
Yeah.
But it was fantastic. Everyone, you had such a high % chance of winning something. There were a lot of people, there were more people who won things than didn't, which is fantastic.
It is fantastic. And absolutely have to thank our vendors. The Adventures Vault podcast. We will reach out and see if we can have some of those guys on there because we game, but we don't RPG, and they play a live role-playing game of Pathfinder here in the Ozarks.
Yes.
Record it and put it out. So if you're interested in listening to something like that, head over to their podcast, give them a listen. Tremendicon, they have a convention in July. I want to say it's the 7th, 8th, and 9th, but that sounds about right. It's the weekend after July, if I'm not mistaken. They have some gaming. They have some artists, music. They do a whole bunch of everything. They're at the Oasis. Hedgecraft. Kate has handmade, knitted dice bags, and she does handcrafted things for gamers in mind.
Yes.
She also started dipping her toe in 3D printed things. She had 3D printed dice towers. She had a cute little... he looked like the turtle from Nemo. His little shell popped off, and he was kind of a dice storage.
Yeah.
Then we had Cards and Stripes up from Republic. It was Steven's first time with us. He said he had a good time. He had a table, and I'm hoping he did okay. And then we had Hoarding Dragon. I've seen them at some other shows. They messaged us late and asked us if we had a table, and we had to see if we could rearrange the tables to let them, to give them a spot. And it just so happened that we needed to rearrange because our original arrangement had the vendors out in the open foyer.
Yeah.
And I am so glad that got rearranged. Then we have SD Way Games. SD Way specializes in dice. He loves his dice. He came up from Oklahoma. And I might have spent too much on dice myself. But if I could find it, I bought a good sized D20 that has a floating eye in the middle of it. It looks like a dragon eye staring out at you.
Cool.
It is cool. I bought 2 dice bags from Hoarding Dragon, and by the time I was done with that, I needed to stop spending the monies. Our good friend Brendan from Yeo Lasersmith brought his wood laser engraved stuffs. He does trophies, he does gaming implements, dice towers, whole bunch of stuff. And then our friendly local game store, Metagames. They're not only a vendor, they sponsored and did our lanyards, which we absolutely appreciate. All of our vendors gave us prize support for vendor raffles every night.
Yeah.
We seeded it with a few prizes and let them know, hey, if you guys are doing well and you want to and help contribute, we would love to have you, but you do not have to. But they came through every night. I think we gave away at least 8 to 10 items. And that last night, we had a pile of stuff.
Yes, we did.
And Hawk from Fanatics and the Fan came through with some prize support on Sunday. That was amazing. But then the dreaded teardown. The setup is one thing. Setting up is... it's not the most fun. But I think teardown is the worst part of a convention. Because you've just been drained of either good or bad convention, whichever way it went. You've put all of your emotion and your energy into it. You're running on fumes, but now you've got to pack everything up and get the heck out of there.
And you're sad because it's over.
Yeah. But it was a really good convention. And talking with Catherine and Ben just one day later, usually we like to let this simmer and be like, all right, let's give it a month and we'll talk about it. Today, we are already back on the horn going, yeah, we're doing next year.
Absolutely.
All 3 of us just on the same page because we have 3 different kind of waves. Ben's laid back. I can be high-strung at times. Catherine has hers. And sometimes we can get on the same wavelength. And sometimes we're nowhere near the same wavelength. We're at 3 different corners of the pyramid.
Yeah.
Triangle or whatever. But, yeah, we looked at it like, yeah, that was... Everything hit well. Let's look at what worked. Let's take some of the good, some of the criticisms that we had and see if we can fix a couple things. Because there's some things we could smooth out, definitely. I need to do a better job of scheduling. Plain and simple. the scheduling the games, I need to stagger a little bit better. Catherine and I both had our pitch card Calico at the same time. That needed to stagger. Um,
Well, I just think some of the demonstrations and some of the tournaments ran a little bit longer than we thought that they would, which is fine. We'll just next year need to put like a 30-minute buffer in between events so that if one does run over, it doesn't hinder the next thing.
Right. Oh, and a big thank to Shane Martin. He ran our trade table. He volunteered, and Catherine has really been wanting to get a trade table because Geekway used to do that when they were smaller. Mm-hmm. Let people bring in games on a trade table. You'll select one person at random. Then they get to go to the trade table and pick whatever game they want. Whatever game they choose, whosever game that was, they now take their turn and go to the trade table. Mm-hmm. And that we had allotted 2 hours if we thought it was going to take that long. But it ended up finishing about 45 minutes. It went pretty quick.
Yeah, and people seemed to know what they wanted. We're able to select pretty quickly.
Yeah. I think there was a confusion with a couple attendees on how to do it and where to do it, because your games had to be uploaded on Board Game Geek, just so Shane and Catherine could go through and kind of weight the games and give an adequate replacement for whoever's game got picked that first time, who's potentially not going to get a turn, depending on how it all shook out.
Sure.
But, yeah, MoonCityCon 23 in the books. Fantastic time. Great vendors. Great sponsors. Great attendees. I'm excited for next year.
Me too. We've already gotten so many ideas. We're just buzzing with excitement.
And we didn't get... neither one of us got to play a whole lot. But at least we got to play at least 7 games.
Yes, we did.
So why don't we talk about that in the next segment?
I think that's a good idea.
Hey guys, Sarah and Jess from Village Meeple came on last episode to talk about their brand new board game cafe in Springfield, Missouri. So go over and visit Village Meeple, because as this episode drops, they are open, they have board games for you to check out, they have snackies for you to have, they've got drinks to drink. Go play games at Village Meeple.
So, the 417Gamer podcast, we usually do a 7. We always do the 7 on the first episode. And then we give an expansion. In episode 9, we talked about our trip to Geekway. Now we're talking about MoonCityCon. Geekway, we got to play a crap load of games. And we could absolutely do an expansion to the last episode of just more Geekway games. But, it's Moon City's my baby. It's our baby. You helped absolutely, too. You put up with my...
MoonCityCon!
I need to bleep that. But... let's talk about the 7 games you and I got to play together. Mm-hmm. You want to go... Just go top to bottom of the list or bottom to top? What do you want to do?
Bottom.
Top to bottom. Planet Unknown. This is by Adam's Apple Games. We've played this quite a few times in a group. You get a mat, you get a planet. There's a Lazy Susan of the Tetris, Tetramino pieces in the middle. An active player gets to spin it, pick a well of pieces, and wherever they stop to pick their well, everybody on their section gets to pick their piece and put it on their map. Yeah. The pieces have two colors of art, and when they put it on their map, that allows you to bump up your tech on your player board for what other colors. Like red gets you to move your rovers, green potentially allows you to put out green patches, because as you're putting out the tiles, you're trying to cover up as much of the planet as possible. And sometimes you get little holes because your pieces aren't perfect, and those little green patches help you put in some of the holes. Yeah. Blue is water. Water usually pushes for points and some bonuses here and there. Black is your civilization. As you pop up there, at certain levels, you'll get civilization cards. At level 1, low-level civilization, give you some bonuses. Then 2, then 3, then 4 are the tops. Then you also have your technology board, which are the gray/clear cubes. As you bump those up, you unlock stuff throughout that's an ongoing ability. In the generic one, it allows you to store those green patch tiles and use them at the end instead of immediate like you usually have to do. Mm-hmm. Or... usually when you start, you have to either build from the outer section of the board or next to an adjacent piece. The second level on the baseboard allows you to break that. We didn't play the base this time. We finally flipped. Everybody got a map and then flipped it other face up.
There were 5 of us playing, and we all had played the game before, so we were all familiar with how it worked. So we decided to play the backside advanced boards.
Yep. And the advanced player board. So we all had corporations that had different powers, different tech, or different tech, different ways to get bonuses. Like, you were able to get like 5 or 6 rovers out, right?
I could get out up to, I think I had 4 rovers. But ironically, the rovers are good for picking up meteorites and life pods, but my 2 objectives on each side of me were both pick up the least meteorites and pick up the least life pods, which didn't go with my corporation at all.
Right.
But it was still fun.
It was fun. And then planets were interesting. My planet was basically covered in ice and had little bitty landforms. So every planet gave you a little hurdle to go over. I could not place a piece that covered both ice and land. It had to do either or. Mm-hmm. We had another player that had a big a chasm through the middle of his planet. His tiles could not straddle the chasm, and his rover could not go over the chasm. But his technology on his corporation allowed him to teleport, which made it interesting. I only got 1 rover throughout the whole game. That was the only one I could ever get. But I had a 2nd level tech that every time I got a Civ card, I get an extra rover movement, which was kind of cool. Absolutely happy with that game. They are doing a 2nd run on the Kickstarter. Plus, they've announced an expansion. And I'm very, very tempted to go after it.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it. Number 2 is Cabo. This is published by Bezier Games. I think this is one of the play-in wins that came in from Envoy. Cabo is a game where you're trying to be the one that gets to find the last unicorn. Your cards are numbered from, like, I want to say 0 to 12, 14, something like that. Everybody's dealt 4 cards face down. And on your turn, you can either draw a card or call Cabo. When you draw a card, if you draw it face up, you can replace any of the cards that are face down in front of you with whatever you drew face up. Mm-hmm. If you draw a face down card, you look at it secretly, and you can, if it's a certain card that has a power, you may play it to the discard and use the power. Or you can replace one of the cards you have face down in front of you. And if you know what's in front of you and you have multiple of the same number, you can discard all of them at the same time for that replace. So you can get your number pretty low. If you think you have the lowest sum of cards in front of you, call Cabo. Everybody gets 1 more turn, then you all flip over. Whoever has the lowest score is the person who found the unicorn. They win that hand. They score 0 points. Everybody else scores the sum of the cards that are in front of them, and points are bad. It was a cute game. I would absolutely play it again. It's not something out of all the fillers that we have that I think we need.
Yeah, we have several of the quick little card games that are good for a group. Fast, maybe 20 minutes or under. This one was interesting. I'd never played a game with those specific mechanics before. I believe they said it was similar to Silver.
Silver Bullet. Silver Bullet was another plated win we had in the game. Also had face down cards. Had more take that powers. I think stealing people's cards, and you could play their cards face up in front of them so people knew what they had. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I didn't get to play Silver Bullet, but I did get to play Cabo.
Yeah, and I had a good time.
Then we played Fun Facts. One of our friends, Steve, and John. John came up from Joplin. Steve is in the area. They were friends. I'm friends with them. I hardly ever see him anymore because life and kids and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They have kids. I'm going to leave that joke alone. But sat down, played Fun Facts. Fun Facts is a cooperative game where you're going to ask a question, And it's going to be a range of numbers. And everybody writes their number down. And then the active player puts theirs down first, face down. And then everybody puts theirs in order where they think they fall. Like we had one on an important meeting. What time do you get there? You know, like
how many minutes early would you arrive to an important event?
Right. And for me, it's like 3 minutes because I'm bad. But then somebody put theirs above mine. I'm like, I'm bad. How bad is that person? And they were like negative like 5 or 10 minutes. He goes, I'm bad.
I'm always late.
I'm like, oh, I feel better about myself. And like somebody put down like 10 minutes early. I'm like, I'm not that good at all.
Oh. But it was interesting because you're guessing where you rank between the people that you are playing with. One of the questions was, how scared of you are how scared of you of spiders and from 0 to 100.
Right.
You know, so...
And I put a 15. I thought that was pretty low, but we had a 3 and a 5.
Yeah, they weren't scared at all.
Like, I'm not scared of spiders unless it's got a red diamond that I saw in our garden, and then I'm like, I don't want to touch it.
Right. But it was interesting, and the gameplay was fine, but the interaction with the other players made it a lot of fun.
Yep. Then that brings us to Pitch Force. I talked about it ad nauseum in the first segment, so I will just save it. We tried it out in February, had a good time, ran it here at MoonCityCon. Mm-hmm. It ran great. We will run it again.
Absolutely.
Then what's the next one?
Reign of Dragoness.
And we talked about this at Geekway.
Mm-hmm. It was one of the games that we played from their Play and Win section. Quick little card game.
I think we forgave it,
mm-hmm.
and we're nicer to it because we played it at 2, and we're like, okay, I can see maybe some things that would be better at multiple players.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's not.
Yeah, we played it at 4 this time, and we had pretty much the same reaction as we did at the 2 player.
Last time we're like, okay, because the art is gorgeous.
Yes.
And we're like, okay, at 4 players, this has got to be better. We played it at 4 players, and it wasn't better.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm not playing it correctly. I thought I was, but it was just maybe too simple. Yeah, it's definitely, of all the card games that we have, it's not one I'm going to pick up for either a small or a large group.
No.
So.
Then we played Pinpoint. That one was interesting. That one has, it's a party game, but it's 3 party games in one.
Mm-hmm.
There was least most, there was 1 to 100 and 1 to 10. Least most could be played cooperatively or competitively. We played it cooperatively. And you get a list of celebrities, and you put them up there under numbers 1 through 6, and then you pick a category like
who's the most athletic, or who is the
most likely to save an animal from a burning building.
Yes.
And it had like George Washington, Wolverine. No, it was an animal.
Yes.
Most likely to save a puppy from a burning building. It had George Washington, Wolverine,
Doctor Who,
Mother Teresa.
Yeah.
Maui, the Hawaiian god, and something else.
Yeah.
So everybody put on their boards who was the least likely at a 1, or who was the least likely, one of those numbers 1 to 6, and then who was the most likely. Then you flip over, and
basically you're guessing what you think the other people in your group are going to guess.
Cooperatively.
Yes.
Now competitively, you're picking and hoping whoever guesses with you, you get points for the other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had some people that were, there were 5 of us playing that one. So we had one to where 3 of us were on there, so we each got 2 points apiece.
Yeah.
And then 2 people had kind of the same mind's eye, and then they each only just got the 1.
Yeah.
That one was interesting. 1 to 100 is kind of similar to Fun Facts, to where you had an answer like you were trying to get them to answer your question. You're trying to guess your number.
Yeah.
You roll a D8, and it dictated what your question was and what number you're trying to get them to guess. Like, how moist is something that's as moist as this number? And you're given like 78.
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 100, what's a 78 moist? And like, for me, it was like a sponge that's had, just been pushed a little bit.
Yeah.
Or a wet shirt that's been kind of wrung out. I don't know. That was kind of tough.
Yeah, it was. I definitely like the celebrity rankings better than the 1 to 100 portion.
And we didn't get to play the 1 to 10. I think that one was supposed to be a 4-player only game. We didn't get to touch that one. But for a party game,
it was cute.
I don't know if do I like it better than Fun Facts? It gives you more options. I know that.
Yeah, I think it would just depend on the group you were playing with.
That's true. And then last was one of our favorite card games of probably the last 6 months. And that was Scout.
Yeah.
Scout is a trick-taking, ladder-climbing-ish game where it's themed in a circus, but it's basically you just have a hand of cards. Kind of like Bonanza, one of the games we talked about last episode. You cannot change the order of your cards. But that's the only way it is similar to Bonanza. On your turn, you can you're either going to shout. You're either going to show or you're going to scout. When you show, you play cards in front of you. You can either play runs or you can play sets. And you are showing your circus people off. If you can beat the next hand, beat the hand previous to you, play it out. And you have to either have a better run or better set, and sets do beat runs. You take their cards, flip them face down as points in a trick. Or, if you cannot or do not want to beat the previous player's hands, you can scout cards off their hand. Because they've played it out face up, you may scout the ends of their card hand. So if I played 1, 2, 3, 4, you can scout the 1 or the 4. Now, every single card has a top value and a bottom value. And that's which way you turn the card. So if you scout, let's say I have a 1-9 and I have a 4-5. You decide if you want the 1-9-4-5, and when you take that card, you can flip it to the 9 side or the 1, if you take that, or you can do the 4 or the 5. And you can place it anywhere in your hand to help you make your sets and runs.
Yeah.
Because when you play out of your hand, all those cards have to be next to each other. And they have to be in order. So if you have 2, 4, 3, that is not chronological, so you cannot play that. It has to be exactly 2, 3, 4. It doesn't matter left to right, right to left. It just has to be in order. You keep on playing until somebody can play out their hand, and everybody else that have cards in their hands, that's negative points against them.
It sounds dry, like a dry numbers game, but it's actually pretty fun.
I grew up playing card games. I love a good solid card game, and this scratches that itch for me a lot. But it's also one of those aha games. You have to get people through the first couple hands, at least the first one.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay.
Now I understand what I'm doing.
Right. And then they dive right back in. And this one, I think most time we've taught this game, people have needed, at least wanted, if not needed, a second game.
Yeah.
And we're happy to oblige. It's a little pricey for what it is. It's a little deck of cards, and I think it's about $25. But as many plays as we've already gotten out of it, I think I've gotten my $25 out of it.
Absolutely.
So those were the 7 games that we got to play together at MoonCityCon. Just for a bonus, Andrea, you got to play one that I didn't get to play. I just ran it.
Battling Tops.
Yes.
It was my first time to play Battling Tops, and it is so much fun. It seems so simple, but oh my gosh, it was fun. It's what year did you say originally came out?
It's in the mid-60s. I think it's 64.
Yeah. You have a little plastic arena, and it up to 4 people can play at once. You just take a string, you wrap it around the top, you put it in the starting position, and you pull the tab to where it unwinds the string real fast, and your top spins out into the arena, and it bounces off everyone else's top, and the last top to fall over is the winner.
And gets a point.
And oh my gosh, we were all like, no, come on. It was so cute. And sometimes they'll hit each other and bounce out of the arena and fall on the floor, but keep spinning.
You had some that flipped upside down and kicked people out of the arena.
Yes. Oh, and what was really fun was one of the girls that was playing, had a slow motion video on her phone, and so we would, if we weren't sure which one fell down last, we'd go to her for the tape. Yeah, we had to go to the tape and see which one fell down first. It was so much fun.
Because it looked like a tie. She goes, no, let's take a look at this. And she was right. Blue was still slightly standing when green went down and wasn't moving anymore. Yep. All right. Our replay judges called it. I love running battling tops, and I absolutely took this from playing it at Geekway. Geekway of the West, their battling tops is so popular. I think they do 64 people. Mm. It sells out or fills up every year. You got to be on the ball and ready to get your pass for it. So I started running it at MoonCityCon, and once we get the people playing, a lot of people are like, "Oh, this is kind of dumb," until they start playing, and then the first couple pulls, like, all right, but then they're pretty close to getting their points to moving on. Then they start yelling at their top just like everybody else. Uh-huh. Come on, Jumpin' Jeremy, stay in there. So.
Oh, some of those videos were just great, and we'll get those up on the Facebook page.
Yeah, I'm going to get some of those from friends and put those up. But yes, that was something. Oh, I played Downforce, regular Downforce. One of our friends watched us play the Pitchforce the night before, and he shook his head, and I said, "What, you don't like this?" He goes, No. I have Downforce, and I'm watching you play something you made up by smashing your Downforce with another game. I just want to try Downforce. So the next day, he was sitting there. I said, "You want to play Downforce?" He goes, "Yeah, why?" I had already taken my copy home, but Alan Reed of Metagames let me borrow his copy if I was going to need it, just in case. Because I had brought mine and it kept on getting checked out, which is fine. But I didn't know if I was going to get it back in time for Pitchforce. And he goes, "I'll bring mine by. And you just sit on it and don't let anybody use it. And you make sure it gets played." So we played it. That was Steve and John again. I had, who else was in that? I think Don. I think Mike was in that. One person bought, Matt Charlton. He sat in and played with us. Mike played Pitchforce with us the night before.
Yes.
Taught it. We got through it. It was a good time. They got out of it. They knew how to play. They'd play it again. But that's Downforce. Downforce is excellent. Really good family weight game. But I do recommend you, if it's a brand newbie, they need to be taught.
Yes.
If you're a seasoned gamer, you can learn this. Not a problem.
Right.
I hesitate on giving it as a present. I've heard some people say give it as a present, but I've seen some new players struggle on the rule book.
Yeah. I agree.
But fantastic time at MoonCityCon. If you didn't make it out or this sounds like a good time, subscribe to the Facebook page over at facebook.com/MoonCityCon. Mm-hmm. And we'll keep you updated on the goings on and what else is going to happen. And MoonCityCon's technically not done because we ran VIP passes this year. The VIPs got a t-shirt. They got an exclusive drawing for a prize that ended up being a copy of Boone Lake from Alexander Pfister, and that was a big game last year. Mm-hmm. And I think they've announced an expansion for it. It's kind of been hard to get your hands on. Expansion is coming, so that got given away. And they get an exclusive game day. So a fourth day for them that's coming up. We're looking at an October date, something cooler.
because the June weather for this was nice. But man, in the Ozarks it could have not been. We've had some really warm Junes. So we're trying to look at October, so it'll be a little bit nicer temperature-wise. But I had a good time. Did you have a good time?
I had an amazing time.
So we will catch you next month for the 417 Gamer podcast. That will be episode 10. But until then, goodbye!
The 417 Gamer podcast is recorded and produced by Rick Bagwell and Andrea Smith. The music we use, Kind, Gentle, Beautiful Person, and Making Up for Lost Time, was created by Origami Replica. For show notes and links to the music, head over to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Hobby Gaming Network. Until next time, keep gaming in the 417.